That's all. For the first time in 22 years, I am alone again. My divorce is now officially finalized, and I'm happy about it. Not really, but I had no choice. Most people say I'm crazy or trying to relive my youth. Truth be told, I'm just sad that I had everything, and now I'm starting all over again. You see, I started this about 4 months ago, and in that time I've pissed off more people than you can imagine. My parents, my mother-in-law, and my 3 children no longer speak to me. Now they call me an asshole. Our friends are now her friends because they don't want to deal with me anymore. I was thinking about retiring at 62, but now it will be closer to 82 because most of our money was Karina's left to her by her father when he died. Therefore, she will not have financial problems, but I will have to struggle a little. The house won't go on the market until our youngest, Randy, is 18, and until it's sold, I can't buy anything for myself, so I'm renting for now. When I retire, I will have a 401k and Social Security, but that will be it. When I told my wife I was going to divorce her, she thought I was joking, but I wasn't. Until yesterday, Karin kept telling me to get my head out of my ass and call off the divorce, but I couldn't. I could blame her and say bad things about her when everyone was coming at me, but that was not in my nature. Plus, I still loved her with all my heart and soul, but we couldn't stay married anymore. Let me tell you what happened, and you can decide whether you agree with me or not. But even if you don't, it won't change anything. Did Karin love me? Well, she loved until yesterday, but now I'm not sure. Did she lie or cheat on me? Hell no, she would never do anything like that. She cared deeply for me, respected me, and was a great wife and mother, which is why it was so difficult for me to do what I did. Confused? Most people felt the same way. Everyone except my best friend Mike. I told him everything a few months ago, and he too thought I was crazy until I explained everything to him. Karin is beautiful, she has a great figure, she is a great cook and a perfect mother for her children. What did she do? Cheat on you? He asked. No, I said, handing him a beer from the refrigerator in my apartment. She was almost the perfect wife until a couple of years ago, I said, taking a long sip of my Corona. I thought we'd be married until one of us died, but it looks like that won't happen now. If she was so perfect, what the hell happened? Menopause, pure and simple. It hit her, and that was the end of it. I still don't understand. All women go through this. Karine may be a little earlier than most, but it's not a death sentence, he said. I gave him another beer because I knew it would be a two-beer story, and it was, but at least now he understood why. A few years ago, Karin began to enter menopause. She knew something was wrong, but at 41, she never thought she was going through her changes at such an early age. She went to several doctors, and they all told her the same thing. It can happen to women any time after 40. But Karin had no intention of leaving quietly or without a fight. She read about it, went to support sites, started taking special herbs, and made major changes to her diet, but nothing helped. I supported her, but didn't really understand what was happening. Honey, why don't you take the pills the doctor suggested? I asked. Like I said, I didn't know anything about it, and since it wasn't happening to me, it didn't seem that bad. Wrong. Now it has taken over my life too. Honey, you can hang your meat in the bedroom, I said one night. Steve, I have fucking night sweats, and I have to change my clothes almost every 4 hours, she yelled at me. Well, if you slept naked, you wouldn't have to change a thing, I said with a smile. Okay, it was stupid, but I thought a little humor wouldn't hurt. I made a mistake. So the temperature in our bedroom went from cold to hot to cold again, and I'm not just talking about air temperature. Our sex life was great when we first got married, but after our second child it became downright good. However, during her changes, it became the worst. It was Saturday night. I just put away the dishes after dinner and the kids went on dates. I felt it was time to get close again, so I walked up to my wife, hugged her hot body, and asked if she wanted to have some fun. Is that all you think about? You think I'm only good for this? Can't you see I'm having a hot flash right now and I'm sweating like a damn pig? Sex is the last thing on my mind right now, Karin shouted at me. Stop my heart. She knew exactly how to ruin the mood. Was I angry? Yes. Did I understand this? Not really, but from that moment on I decided I would understand. I sat her down and told her to talk to me about it. At first she refused, saying that I would not be able to understand, but I insisted that she explain it to me. So we spent Saturday night taking Menopause 101. She was right, I couldn't understand everything, but I told her that I would help her in any way possible, and I tried for a very long time, but in the end I gave up, and so did Karin. She admitted defeat and took the medicines the doctor suggested. It helped a lot with night sweats and mood swings, but it came at a cost. Our sex life, as I said, was great before having kids. Then, after our children were born, she became just as good. During Karin's hot flashes, it became bad at best, and finally, after menopause, it became non-existent. She no longer had any sexual desire, which became a wedge between us. Now we could have sex if I insisted on it. Love relationships are a thing of the past. I've heard all the excuses, and probably many of them were valid, but it didn't help. I didn't get enough sleep last night, and I was tired. I'm hot now. Let's do it later. Maybe we can just hug tonight. Can I just do some manual work? The ones I really hated were just two. Steve, I'm not in the mood, and finally, damn it, Steve, I'm not 20 and don't get horny at the slightest opportunity. Deal with it. Finally, I just stopped asking and waited for her to come to me, but that didn't happen. I satisfied myself in the shower in the mornings or evenings, but it did not give much satisfaction. However, it was much better than discussing it with Karin, who would get angry, lie on her back, spread her legs, and tell me to just use her and get it over with. Not very attractive, is it? At least for me. But other than that, she was still the same Karin. We kissed, cuddled in bed, and she took care of all our other needs. She was still Susie's perfect housewife, but it wasn't enough for me. I was almost 44, and I had no intention of giving up sex for the rest of my life, even if Karin was ready. Shortly before the wedding, my father called me aside and gave me the talk, as he called it. Steve, from this day forward, Karin will come first in your life. She will be your wife, lover, best friend, and someday the mother of your children. It will be your responsibility to love her and take care of her. God forbid that I find out that you lied, cheated, or disrespected her, son. If I find out, I'll throw you the hell out of here. Do you hear me, boy? I told him I heard. Remember, marriage won't be a walk in the park every day, but you will be married to each other until the day you die. Your mom and I have been together for almost 40 years, and I love her more now than when we first got married, he finally said. It was his talk or warning, as my mother said. I have tried. I really tried to make Karin understand where I was coming from. I talked to her doctor, who was a real ass, and many others before finally giving up. I suggested family therapy, but she refused to go. All the talk in the world won't bring back my sexual desire. The sex was good, but after 20-something years I can do without it, she said. Maybe she could, but I couldn't. You will be killed financially, and with one child still living at home, Karin will control everything, my lawyer said. Since you're just looking for a 50-50th split, it should be pretty easy, especially since all her money is tied directly to her. Does she know you're thinking about it? He asked. No idea, but I plan to talk to her about it tonight. Do you want me to pause? He asked. No, keep going, because if something drastic doesn't happen tonight, it will happen anyway. Karin wasn't in the best mood after dinner, but what's new? We were supposed to go out to dinner with a few friends next Saturday, and one couple wanted to change restaurants. Honey, I need to talk to you about something, I told her as Randy went to her room. I need you to sit here, I said, pointing to the chair next to mine. That doesn't sound good. What have you done again? I hope you're not still thinking about that boat. You know how I feel about that, right? She said, sitting down at the kitchen table. That's not what this is about, I said. I went to see a lawyer today, I began. For what? She said, now looking at me intently. I asked him to draw up the divorce papers. It's a joke, isn't it? She said, looking at me much more seriously now. Steve, it's not funny to even joke about something like that, she started to say and then stopped. You're serious, aren't you? She finally asked. I'm afraid so. You've got to be kidding me. You have a little bitch on your side that you want to be with, and I'm no longer good enough for you? You used me, and now you're throwing me away. Son, you're a bastard, she now screamed at me. There is no one else. You have to trust me, I said. We just can't be married anymore. Steve, you're talking nonsense. If you're not cheating on me and there's no one else, why do you want a divorce? Don't you love me anymore? She said with tears in her eyes. I love you more than ever. Sometimes love just isn't enough to save a marriage, I tried to explain to her. I don't need this stupid talk. You either love me or you don't. If you really love me, then nothing else makes sense, she said, now standing up. It's all about sex, isn't it? You're angry, and now you're doing this to get back at me. But it won't work, Stephen Moore. You can't threaten me or give me any damn ultimatums to get me to spread my legs for you, she screamed. Here, take me right there on the damn kitchen table, she said, taking off her shorts and panties. Is this what you want? Here it is, go ahead, she continued to scream and cry. Karen, I started to say, but she didn't hear me because she was already running half-naked down the corridor to our bedroom. She slammed the door so hard that the whole house shook. I knocked on the door but received no answer. That's how it all started. Karen was still in our room when I went to work, but when I returned home, all my clothes had been thrown into the spare bedroom. I hung up my things and went downstairs to get something to eat. Karen came down an hour later, took a glass of wine, and went upstairs again. I started to say something, but she stopped me. If you don't want to be with me, then I certainly don't want you sharing a bed with me. If you haven't found a place to stay, I suggest you start looking now. I want you out of here as soon as possible, she said, turning and going to her room. She was given the documents the next day, and I moved in over the weekend. Things got pretty ugly, not with Karen, but with everyone else. I was called every name in the book and basically rejected by all of my relatives and all of our friends. Steve is just going through his changes and will soon, Karen told everyone, and maybe I was going through something, but I had no intention of becoming celibate at 44. So I'm sitting at work, doing nothing, just waiting for 5 o'clock. I feel terrible and I'm incredibly depressed. I received an email from Karen that I still had time to stop, but I had no intention of doing so. I had a drink with Mike and came home to an empty apartment and cried for the first time since I was a kid. I woke up and started my life as a new single man again and had no idea what that meant. Word must have spread that I was now officially on the market because all the single women started paying attention to me, or so I thought. I dated a little but wanted to go slow. What was unusual was that my dates almost got offended when I didn't want to take them to bed. I heard, "What's wrong with me?" not once. The holidays have been more than a little depressing this year. My parents' Thanksgiving turned out really bad. I finally got angry and left. No one could understand, if Karen was such a wonderful wife, why the hell I divorced her. I didn't discuss it with anyone other than my dad, and that was in the driveway on Thanksgiving Day on my way out. He was giving me a bunch of crap when I yelled at him, which surprised him. Have you ever cheated on your mom? I asked. What kind of question? Of course not, he replied. Me neither. I never cheated on Karen, despite what you heard. But after not having sex for over a year and her saying there wouldn't be any in the future, I had to do something. I love Karen to death, but I can't live without sex. Maybe if I was 70, I would think about it differently, but at 44 I wasn't going to become a damn priest, I said. So stop putting pressure on me. I'm already miserable without you and Mom. If you want to push me away, keep it up, and you won't have to worry about seeing me around. Dad calmed down after that, but Mom never calmed down, voila. I took the children's Christmas gifts to Karen's house. They have already told me that they are planning to spend the holidays with their mother. I think Karen felt bad, but she said it was their choice. On New Year's Day, I got so drunk that I passed out for the first time in my life. I was sick for 2 days after that. Thank God my office was closed. In mid-January, Karin sent me an email. I have a few things I need to discuss with you, and I'm tired of doing it via email. How about dinner on Friday at Tony's? Let me know by Wednesday evening. I didn't avoid her. We just texted back and forth, mostly with her keeping me in the loop regarding the kids, so dinner sounded good. It had been a while since I had seen her, and I was looking forward to it. I arrived early on a Friday night, but Karin still arrived first. She was already sitting at our table when I arrived. I walked over to our table and kissed her on the cheek, which I think surprised her more than a little. "You look good," I said, sitting down and ordering a glass of wine. "You look good too," Karin said, looking me up and down. "You've lost some weight?" "A few pounds around my waist. I don't have a good cook to fatten me up anymore," I said with a smile, but Karin didn't smile, so my sense of humor failed. We had dinner and talked about children, work, and home. She asked if I was seeing anyone, and I asked her the same thing. Looks like we were both in no hurry. When she said she was having problems with her water heater, I suggested we take a look at it. "Not necessarily. I can always call someone to fix it," she said. "Nonsense. I'll come in late tomorrow morning and look at it. There's no point in wasting money on something I can do," I said. "Well, if you don't mind," she finally agreed. By the end of dinner, we had finished discussing all the little things, and I could see that she was not ready to move on. "Do you want to dance?" I asked. She looked at me, and I thought she was going to tell me to go to hell, but instead she smiled and said yes. All the songs were slow, and we moved smoothly around the dance floor. After 22 years, we were not two people on the dance floor, but rather one. I held her close and let my hands slide down her back and down several times. It felt so good to hold her in my arms again. We didn't notice that midnight had come. I didn't want this evening to end, but it had to. "So I'll see you tomorrow at 10 in the morning," I said, walking her to the car. I was about to kiss her again on the cheek, but she turned her head and we kissed on the lips, not once, but twice, the second time with the tongue. "That was nice," I said, giving her another kiss. "See you tomorrow," I said, now moving towards my car, adjusting my erection along the way. "It still affects me," I told myself. I came in shorts and a t-shirt. I was hoping to see and talk to Randy, but she wasn't home. The heating element burned out, and luckily I had a spare on a shelf in the garage. An hour later, I finished. "Is there anything else that needs fixing?" I asked. A shower full of hair and some WD-40 on a few doors slowly drained, and by 1:30 I was free. "Steve, I made you lunch," Karin said. "Go wash your hands, and I'll wait for you in the kitchen." I washed my hands in her bathroom and, drying my hands, inhaled the smell of her towel. I inhaled her scent before I put the towel back. We were still talking about all the little things like the night before while we ate. If you didn't know we were divorced, you'd think we were old married people having a casual weekend lunch, until Randy came along. "What is he doing here?" She spat out the words as if they were spoiling her stomach. "Your father was just fixing a few things around the house," Karin said. "If he had stayed, perhaps the house would not have fallen into disrepair," she told everyone who could hear. "If you want me, I'll be in my room," Randy said, disappearing down the hallway. "That went well," I said, standing up. "I better leave. I know how Randy can act," I said, wiping my face with a napkin. "She's still a little upset, that's all," Karin replied. "Join the club," I said, putting my plate in the sink and heading towards the garage door. "If you need anything else, anything, you know how to find me," I said. Karin followed me to my car and just stood there, not knowing what to do next. I took the initiative, kissed her, and hugged her tightly. She just looked at me, not knowing what to say. So I got in the car, said goodbye to her, and drove home. I found out later that Randy was watching us and told Karin off when she went back inside. "How could you kiss that bastard? He left us, damn it, and you kissed him? What were you thinking?" She attacked her mother. But Karin told her that it was none of her business what she did and with whom. I think it shut her up, but it didn't do anything to bring Randy closer to me. From then on, Karin and I ate dinner at least twice a month, usually on a Friday or Saturday night. We tried several new restaurants and weren't a couple, but we weren't strangers to each other either. When Karin canceled our dinner on Saturday, I still decided to go to the new seafood restaurant we were talking about to see how it was. To my surprise, I saw Karin there with a tall, dark-haired man. I was far enough away not to be noticed, and although I had barely eaten my dinner, I had lost my appetite. They weren't particularly close, but I realized this wasn't their first date. When they kissed after dinner, I thought I was going to lose control until my mind intervened. "You're no longer married to Karin. You divorced her, remember?" A voice screamed in my head. I didn't sleep that night and the next two. What am I doing, having dinner with her almost every week now? I knew I still loved her, but what we were doing was unnatural. What about Karin? She seemed to have moved on as far as I could tell. Karin emailed me that she wanted to go to the same seafood restaurant where I saw her last Friday. "I have a reservation for 7:30, and we can go to the lounge to dance if you're up to it," she wrote. "See you there," she signed. I almost didn't come. Several times I almost turned back and went home, but it was time to finally talk to Karin, and I was not looking forward to it with joy. Dinner was quieter than usual, as if we both wanted to say something but didn't know how to start. "How did you like dinner?" she asked. "Not bad, almost the same as last Saturday when I was here," I said. Karin made a sad face and said nothing, just took a sip of wine. "How long have you been dating?" I asked. "Not for long," she replied. "Karin, you don't need to explain anything to me. We are divorced, and you have your own life now," I said, although these words were stuck in my throat. I would rather Karin take a knife and stab me in the chest than hear what she said next. "We're just dating, but he wants me to go to bed with him, and I really miss having a man next to me at night," she said, finishing her glass of wine. "Well, I think it's all worked out now," I said, wiping my mouth with a napkin before I stood up and threw it on the table. "The reason we got divorced was because you didn't want sex anymore, but it seemed like it was because you just didn't want sex with me." "Now I understand," I said, perhaps a little too loudly. "Steve, please sit down and let me explain," she tried to say. "No thanks, Karin. This is my second meal here that I didn't finish because of you. Looks like you've moved on, and I hope your new boyfriend is better in bed than me," I said, throwing in $100 bill on the table. "Thank you for a wonderful and most educational evening, but if you don't mind, I think I'll end this evening early." "Steve," Karin began to speak. "Don't bother getting up, I know the way," I said, turning around and almost running outside. I lost my dinner in the parking lot before I got to my car, and the second time I drank myself into unconsciousness. I wasn't sure if it was possible to drink myself to death, but I tried my best. Karin called and wrote to me, but I did not answer. I didn't say I went to bed with him, just that he wants it. I really miss having a man in my bed, but it's you who I want next to me. Please don't close yourself off from me. I won't be able to survive this," she wrote. But I closed myself. Over the next 3 months, I slept with 15 different women. White, black, tall, short, and mostly pretty cute. I think I tried to please them because they all thought highly of me in bed. But this was not what I was looking for. Sex with a hot woman is great, but love with a special someone is beyond compare. There was one woman, Rose, who I dated more than once, but she wanted to settle down right away, and I wasn't ready for that. So my life was basically miserable. About a month later, I received a letter from Karin. It was the first in a long time. "Steve, I'm in therapy, and I'm trying to work through a few issues. I know I don't have the right to ask you this, but would you consider coming to a couple of sessions? My therapist thinks it would help her understand some things better," she wrote. I thought about it for a couple of days and wrote that I saw no reason to refuse. "Just tell me where and when," I said. We were sitting in the therapist's office, waiting for her appointment, when Karin broke the silence. "Thank you for coming," she said. "You're welcome," I replied, looking through her. As we walked in, Karin introduced me to June, her therapist. "Great female doctor," I thought to myself. "Now I will have two women on my neck for the next hour and a half." But this turned out not to be the case, only one. "Well, Steve," she began, "I want to thank you for coming. I know this may not be easy for you, but there are a few areas where I need your perspective on what happened in your marriage," she said. "I'll try my best." "Okay, after your divorce was final, why did you continue to date? I assume it was just dinners and dances, but I understand there was also physical contact and kissing between you. I need to understand why. Why didn't you decide to move on at that moment?" she asked. "June, we didn't hate each other, on the contrary. I still loved her at that moment. I just couldn't stay married to her anymore. We always enjoyed each other's company, and I still loved dancing with her," I said. "It wasn't until that night that I decided to move on because Karin had already moved on. We were fooling ourselves, and I think I was still trying to hold on to a little piece of my marriage, as crazy as it sounded." "But it was you who divorced Karin. You could have stopped at any time," she replied. "Listen, June, I wasn't going to stay married to Karin because I would end up cheating on her. She didn't want sex anymore, and I wasn't dead yet. I believed and still believe that cheating on your wife is wrong. That's why I divorced her." "Steve, did you have sex with anyone before the divorce was final?" asked June. "No, I didn't. It was a long time before I brought anyone into bed," I replied. "Let me guess, it was after the night you two fought at dinner." "Maybe, I don't remember exactly," I said. "Come on, Steve, you felt like Karin betrayed you by sleeping with someone else, so you got back at her by finding someone else to sleep with, right?" she asked. "Look, June, this isn't about me, this is about her," I said, getting a little annoyed. "We're not married anymore. Karin can sleep with whoever she wants. It doesn't matter to me anymore," I said. "Come on, Steve, do you really expect me to believe this? The woman you were married to for 22 years, the woman who rejected you in bed over and over again for 13 months, is now telling you she's going to have sex with someone else? Didn't that make you angry? Isn't that the reason you stormed out of the restaurant?" "Damn, that's pissed off," I yelled at June and Karin. It seemed like I wasn't satisfying her anymore, so she went looking for another sex. The only reason we got divorced was because Karin didn't want sex anymore, and now she does, just not with me. I loved that woman more than my own life, and she made my life hell. Everyone turned on me because I was a bastard who divorced his perfect wife. If only they knew that my perfect wife was a fucking bitch, maybe I wouldn't be such an asshole like everyone else. "We counted," I said, standing up. "I don't need this crap. I lived through it once, and I'm not going to live through it again," I said, walking out of the room to a stunned June and Karin. I was so furious that I could hardly drive. I called work to say I needed the rest of the day and headed to the nearest bar. After 2 drinks, I stopped. What the hell am I doing? Karin still rules my life, and I let her influence me, not anymore. I called Rose and had a frank conversation with her. I still wanted to date her, but I wasn't ready to settle down with her or anyone else. So if she still wants to date on those terms, I'd be more than happy to oblige. Then I emailed all 3 of my children. It was a harsh letter explaining exactly why I divorced their mother. I told them that I still love them, but they act like spoiled children, and this is my last communication with them. If you want to talk to me, it's now your responsibility to contact me. I tried to be a good father, but now I don't care. Either pull your head out of your ass or cut me out of your life, and at this point I don't care. I sent one email and copied it to all 3. Finally, I started Tuller courses. I've been cooking only in the microwave for so long that I forgot how to boil water. Classes were held 3 times a week, and once a month we had lunches with a choice of dishes on Saturday evenings. For the first time since my divorce, I felt in control of my life again. I felt happy again. I was still seeing Rose and someone from my cooking class. Work was still stressful, but I was in a much better mood. Every now and then I would run into one of my old friends, and instead of avoiding them, I would now approach them and make them as uncomfortable as possible. Life was good. Karin still sent me letters sometimes, but I no longer responded to them. My kids never contacted me, but I learned from Karin that they got together one weekend and asked her why I really left. She said she was honest with them, but I had my doubts. Karin asked to come back for therapy sessions, but I did not respond. Mr. Stephen Moore, they called me at work one morning. Yes, this is Steve. How can I help you? I asked. I don't know if you remember me. My name is June. I met you at one of your ex-wife's sessions, she said. How can I forget? I replied. Pardon my outburst, but I think under the circumstances you can understand why, I said. How can I help? I was wondering if you would be willing to come back for another session. I promise to be more discreet, but I think it would help Karin complete the process of letting go of the past, she said. I thought she already did it, I answered. Steve, I don't feel comfortable discussing this over the phone. If you're free tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock, I could talk to you about the issues I'd like to cover, she said. I looked at my calendar. June, 2 o'clock is coming, see you tomorrow, I said as I hung up. I wasn't looking forward to seeing Karin again, especially after our last conversation. Thank you for coming, June said, leading me into her office. You're welcome, I said, looking around for Karin. Is Karin late? I asked. She's not coming, Steve. I wanted to talk to you in private, she said. What about medical confidentiality? I asked. Karin told me last time that I can discuss anything and everything with you or her 3 children if necessary. Would you like a cup of coffee or a bottle of water before we start? No, I'm fine. Let's get on with what you want, I said, getting comfortable. Okay, Steve, Karin still doesn't understand why you left or hasn't fully come to terms with it. After many tests, she found out that she has a chemical imbalance that causes mood swings and other problems. I think your letter to the children got her digging. They didn't see the problem deeper, but other than Randy, they didn't live with it, she said. But what does this have to do with me? I asked. Steve, do you still love her? June, this is a tough question. I loved her before, but over the past few months, I don't know anymore. I've kind of moved on and really started enjoying life for the first time since our divorce. I don't think I want to go back to the way things were, I said. How about you go back to the wife you knew before she started going crazy? She asked. That's a hard question. I kind of remember how things were, but after all the crap that happened, it's hard to remember if we were truly happy or just happy with each other. Your children asked me to tell you that they are sorry for what they put you through, June said. To hell with them. They have 2 hands and 10 fingers. Why haven't they called me or emailed me in the last year and a half, even after they found out I wasn't the asshole they thought I was? I get it. That I don't need them. I wanted them in my life, but I don't need them anymore. It's the same with Karin. You've gotten a lot tougher over the last couple of months, Steve, and you're not as sensitive as you used to be, she said. You can only hit a dog until it either dies or starts biting back. I'm not going to put up with their crap anymore. I chose to live. So if I can help Karin, then it's good if it doesn't affect my life more. I tried, she screwed up. Case closed. Well, Steve, I think I've got all my questions answered. Thanks for your help with this matter, and if I need anything else, I'll call you. Thanks for coming, June said, standing up and extending her hand. I went back to work and had a great rest of the week. We had just had sex and were lying there enjoying the afterglow. Steve, that was wonderful, Rose said, kissing me. My mom is looking after Danny, and I'd like you to stay the night, unless you're going to meet someone else after you leave here, she said. I don't think I have the strength for 2 hot women in one night, but if you want, I'll try, although I don't promise anything, I said, trying to be funny, but it didn't work. I know you're seeing someone else, that's why I asked, she said. Rose, I've been honest with you from the beginning. I really like you, but I'm just not ready to settle down yet, I said. I know that, but now I hate that word. What word? I asked, slightly puzzled. Like, if you said love or care a lot, that would be one thing, but like, it's so impersonal, she said. I guess I didn't know what to say, so I just looked at her. We both knew what would happen next. Steve, maybe it's best if you leave. I have a lot to do tomorrow morning, and with you here, I probably won't get enough sleep. she said with a fake smile. I got dressed, gave her a tender kiss, and left for the last time. She wanted something that I simply couldn't give her. Damn, I guess I don't have this anymore, I thought as I returned home early in the morning. I was still seeing Beth from my cooking class. The sex was great. Hell, it was the best sex I've ever experienced, but we both knew it was just for fun. We were very different, except in bed. She was bisexual, and from time to time she would cancel a date because her friend was jealous that we were spending too much time together. I once suggested that the three of us have a threesome, but Beth said her friend was too jealous for it unless I was happy with just watching them do it. I told her I needed to think about it. And then Sue came into my life. I didn't have any plans for Sunday, so I decided to look at the condos. I chose an area close to my work, a lake, and a running track in the park, and began walking from one open house to another. They came in different sizes and shapes, but I was starting to get frustrated with their prices. After I listened to the realtor and looked at everything, I told him I didn't think it was worth the asking price. The pool is not finished, the Gymthize gym only has 3 machines, and they want $600 in monthly fees. For what? I asked. Besides, the job was a little sloppy. I can still see the drywall joints, damn it, I said, perhaps too loudly, when he said they cost $225,000. Sorry, but I won't pay that kind of money for this place, I said as I started to walk away before noticing that a woman was following me. Sorry, she said, trying to get my attention. I couldn't help but overhear you talking to the realtor, she began. You seem to know what you're talking about when it comes to quality. Maybe you could help me, she said as I stopped and turned to face her. Sue Collins, she said, holding out her hand. Steve Moore, I replied. How can I help? I asked. Steve, I'm moving from Atlanta and don't know anyone here. I'm looking for a place to live, but I don't seem to know what to look for. These condos looked pretty good to me. If it weren't for you, I might have made a huge mistake, she explained. I don't know everything, but I have a pretty good handle on quality, I said. Do you mind if I come with you while you explore other places? She asked. I don't mind at all, I'll be glad, I answered. That's how I first met Sue. She worked in the advertising business and was opening a new branch in Orlando. She was 39, divorced, and had an adult son who was serving in the military. And best of all, she was very attractive. About 5'6", weighing about 135 pounds, she looked very good. Her brown hair was cut short because she loved to ride her bike and long hair was in the way, she explained. Over dinner the following Saturday, we worked out a plan to tour the 4 condominiums together on Sunday. We met for breakfast and arrived at the first place at 10 a.m. It was good, but a little shabby. We spent about 45 minutes on the second and almost an hour on the third, which was new and had everything we were looking for. The fourth location was an old house that had recently been converted into 3 condominiums. Wow, was all we said when we pulled up. An old Victorian house that looked brand new. I think I ignored Sue a bit, walking around with my mouth open because it was wonderful. Whoever did this job did it superbly. The kitchens, bathrooms, and everything else looked like they came out of a design magazine. What do you think? Sue finally asked. I think I'm in love, I said, smiling at her. Not me, I'm asking about the house, she said with a laugh. They're asking $265,000 for the penthouse and $250,000 for the lower 2 floors, and in my opinion, they're worth the money, I said. With 3 floors, there must be over 4,000 square feet, I said, before I heard someone say, 4,200 to be exact. This home has 4,200 square feet under roof, and that doesn't include a covered backyard deck or a 3-bed detached garage, the realtor told us. If you're interested, I can give you a full tour and tell you what's new and what else you want to know, he said. Lead, I said, speaking for both of us. Over the next 2 hours, we examined every room, including basements and attics. The electrical wiring and plumbing were new, as were the appliances and plumbing fixtures. Heating was provided using a combination of natural gas and 3 solar panels on the roof. There was no pool, but there was enough space in the backyard to build one. Taxes were about the same as other places, but fees including insurance and maintenance were a bit high. The realtor kept pushing us to make an offer, but we said we'd think about it. Finally, we left and decided to discuss it over dinner. "Well, what do you think?" Sue asked excitedly. "The house is almost perfect, but I'm not sure about the price. I think they'll agree to $10,000 less for the penthouse, and maybe 8,000 less for the lower floors," I said. "What are you going to do, Steve?" she asked. "My ex still lives in my house with my daughter Randy, but I think I'll try to get a loan. It's almost too good an offer to pass up. Why don't we get an appraisal and see what they say? I'll call the realtor and I'll say we're interested, but we need to take a few steps before making an offer. That way he'll know we're interested and give us the first shot at them," I said, running the numbers in my head. "I'm so excited, I feel like a damn teenager," she said, finishing her glass of wine. "Wouldn't it be great if we both got apartments together?" she said, now looking at me as if appraisingly. "That would really be something," I said. Given that Randy turns 18 in May and graduates from high school in June, I assumed that I would be able to put the house on the market in May. I crunched the numbers and decided that I should have enough funds to qualify for the loan, even if the house didn't sell right away. I didn't speak to Karin directly, but I responded to a couple of emails after our meeting with her therapist. "Do you want to try dinner again?" I asked. "I have a few things to discuss, and since we both need to eat dinner, we might as well do both at the same time. A new place has opened outside of town, and I can pick you up on Saturday at 6 o'clock because it's about an hour away. Let me know if you're interested," I said. I received a response within a few hours. "I wasn't sure you'd ever talk to me again after our last time. I'd love to have dinner with you, and 6 o'clock is fine with me. See you Saturday." I wasn't sure what kind of Karin to expect on Saturday. Crazy, hysterical Karin whom I scammed. Sweet, loving Karin with whom I was happy for 20 years, or the new Karin about whom I knew nothing more. She looked great when I picked her up. She seemed to have lost weight, and her hair was half as long as it had been in all the years of our marriage. "Wow, you look fantastic," I said as she circled around to reveal her full self. "Your new haircut makes you look 10 years younger," I said, then added that she didn't look her age before. "Everyone will think I have a young trophy wife," I said, finally falling silent. "You sure know how to turn a girl's head," Karin said with a wide smile. "Go?" The road was better than good. She was nice and apologized for June's attack on me. "Steve, I didn't know it would come at you with such force." I was in shock and just sat there with my mouth open, waiting for the end. "When you left, I tried to explain, but I think you decided that I had set a trap for you." "It's in the past and forgotten," I said. "I'm not going to bring this up if you don't want to." The restaurant was located on an artificial island in the middle of the lake. It was a hotel with a restaurant that had not yet officially opened. Only 10 tables, and that was perfect and elegant. I asked her what she was doing and how the children were doing. "After what June told them, they were afraid to contact you, Steve. Now they know they were wrong, but they didn't know how to start. Tell them to dial my number and start with the word hello, and I'll take charge. I don't hate them, but we need to work to get back to how we were before all this. By the way, how do you feel?" "June said something about a chemical imbalance," I asked. "Good compared to 8 months ago. I'm taking a few medications to stabilize, but it's worth it. The night sweats are virtually gone, the mood swings are a thing of the past, and my head is no longer spinning on my neck. I'm still spitting pea soup. If someone makes me angry, but that rarely happens," she said, laughing. It was nice to hear her laugh again. I missed it, like so many other things over the past couple of years. When the music started, I asked her if she had forgotten how to dance. "There's only one way to find out," she said, holding out her hand to me. The dance floor was big enough for 3 couples. Luckily, we were the only ones using it. The first dance song, I was a little tense and stiff as we moved around the floor. "Relax, Steve, I won't bite," Karin finally said, holding me close and resting her head on my neck. I think I realized how Karin was with me tonight. For the next 2 hours we danced, talked, and drank glass after glass of wine, until we were the only ones left in the restaurant. No one told us to leave, so we stayed, enjoying each other's company. I think we became the center of attention. Everyone watched as we danced, laughed, and finally kissed. Not passionately, but simply, our lips barely touched each other, waiting for the inner warmth to ignite them. Neither of us said a word as we swayed to the rhythm of the music we had become accustomed to for over 20 years. A compliment from management, our waiter said, handing me the key and pointing to the man in the door. He said that a couple as in love as you two should be the first to try out the bridal suite. It's the big room upstairs to the right, he said. I looked at Karin, and she didn't say anything. She took my hand, we collected our things from the table, and silently headed upstairs. The room was great. One wall was glass, the other was mirrored. There was no light, but moonlight flooded the room. I opened my mouth to say something, but Karin closed it with her lips and filled my mouth with her tongue as we still swayed to the rhythm of the music coming from the lounge. I took off her dress and threw it on the floor, followed by my jacket and shirt. There were no cliches about changing into something more comfortable or me tearing up the rest of her clothes and throwing them on the bed. We just stood there, absorbing each other. How and when we ended up on the bed, I don't remember. But I definitely remember that the sex was great. I heard her shallow breathing and thought she had fallen asleep, but after a light kiss on her neck, she said, "Thank you." She's fit through the blanket over us and turned to face me. Despite the darkness, I saw her face and tears in her eyes. I opened my mouth to say something, but she stopped me with a kiss, closing her eyes. It didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that she didn't want to talk, just enjoy the moment, and that's what we did all night. I think we fell asleep after 4 a.m., and at 9 a.m. there was a knock on the door. I stood up and put on my robe. "Your breakfast," said the waiter, wheeling in a cart full of various dishes. "I hope you had a good evening," he said with a smile as he walked out after pouring us some coffee. Karin slipped into the bathroom and returned wearing a different robe. "I'm starving," she announced, taking a sip of coffee and trying a little of everything. We ate in silence, looking at each other all the time and waiting to see which of us would speak first. How and why it happened didn't matter anymore. The question was what would happen next, but neither of us wanted to talk about it. I was about to ask, "Where do we go from here?" when Karin grabbed my hand and said we should try the shower together. We lathered up and, checking all areas for cleanliness, became aroused and eventually had sex in the shower. I was going to pay, but they told me that everything had already been paid. They just wanted our opinion about the food, service, etc. I gave them glowing reviews, and within minutes, we were on our way back to town. Okay, Karin was better in bed than she had been in 4 years. It looks like someone taught her, I thought. Jealousy tormented me, perhaps I was a little hurt, but I didn't say anything while we were driving. "You're still as good in bed as I remembered, maybe even better," she said, addressing the elephant in the room. "Last night was great. I really enjoyed myself," she said. "Wonderful. It was better than just wonderful in my eyes." We made love for the first time in years, and Karin came up with several new techniques that only added spice. I wanted to scream how many guys she had slept with, but it was no longer my business. I loved her, I was hurt and angry at the same time, but only my eyes told her that. When we almost reached her house, she stunned me. "You can thank June, Marcus, and Andy for last night," she said. "June pushed me to figure out what was wrong with my health, and then introduced me to Marcus and Andy, among other things, to solve the rest of my problems," she said with a smile. "Thank Marcus and Andy? I wanted to kill those bastards, not thank them," I screamed internally. Karin seemed to notice that I was becoming more and more agitated and touched my arm. "I never stopped loving you, Steve." I didn't know what to say, and I was running out of time when I turned onto her street. I had a million questions that I wanted answered, but I was afraid to ask them because of the possible answers. When I parked at her house, we just looked at each other. I knew we both wanted to say something, but the silence was so loud it was killing me. "If you're not busy with Marcus or Andy, maybe we can have dinner next week," I started. I was surprised when she leaned over and kissed me. There was more passion in that kiss than I had seen all last night. "I need to show you something inside," she said as she opened the door and got out of the car. I followed her home, and she took my hand, leading me upstairs. We walked into our old bedroom, and she walked over to the bedside table. "This is Marcus and Andy," she said, holding up the sex toys. "And this is my study guide," she said, throwing an adult movie DVD on the bed to my shocked eyes. "Is there anything else you want to ask me?" she said with a smug smile on her face. I don't remember our old bed creaking so loudly, but it had been a long time since we had wild sex in it. She screamed, I screamed, and we spent the next 2 hours not making love, but having wild sex. Now it's time for the difficult conversation. "Karen, where do we go from here?" I finally asked the $10,000 question. "I want you back in my life, but I don't know where you are or if you're seeing someone else," I finally said, and at that moment my eyes pleaded with her. When she paused before answering, I thought it was over. I did my best, and I lost. At least I'll have this last weekend to remember her, I thought, my eyes desperately looking at her. "Steve, we've had a rough couple of years," she began, looking at me. "You've changed, and so have I. I know we've both been with others, and can we deal with that fact without throwing it in each other's faces if we have an argument in the future? You still love me enough to try again, and we also need to consider our families," she said with a serious face. "Look, I didn't say it would be easy, but I'm more than willing to try again. It looks like our main problem has been solved, and our families will have to live with it. It has to be what we both want, otherwise it will never work." I said, "I don't need an answer today, but soon," I said, standing up and starting to get dressed. "Are you going?" "Karen, I have some plans and I promised to help someone this afternoon," I said. She wasn't happy, but she understood. We said our goodbyes, which took almost 45 minutes, and I headed home to shower and change. I met Sue for lunch and told her the assessment was a success. "The prices are confirmed. All that remains is to decide whether to make an offer," I said. "I'm ready to move forward, and you?" she asked. "I'm thinking about the penthouse. It's the perfect size, and I know I'll never lose money on it. But my life took a strange turn this weekend," I said, telling her about Karen and testing her strength on some issues. "It sounds like you still have feelings for your ex-wife," she said. "But she still owns and lives in your old house? Have you talked to her about this place?" "I didn't get the chance until this morning, and there's already an issue that needs to be resolved before we continue," I said. "But I can't go back to the old house. Even if Karen and I get back together, there are too many bad memories," I said. "I'm meeting with my banker on Monday, and I've been told he'll either approve or decline. Why don't we meet for dinner on Monday night and discuss the offer, if everything's okay?" I suggested. I got approved for a loan of up to $300,000 on Monday, and by 6:30 I was having dinner with Sue. "I'm ready to propose tomorrow," I said. "My lawyer is already preparing a purchase and sale agreement and asked if he would like to do the same for you." "Sure, why not? Are you going to offer full price?" "I'm offering $5,000 less and asking for all closing costs and fees to be included. I think they'll agree, especially in the current market," I said. "Have your lawyer draw up the same contract for me, and we'll offer them as a package deal. So the realtor will sell 2 of the 3 at once." "I'm thrilled," Sue said, ordering another drink. We ate and drank until 10 p.m., and I said I would call the realtor and make an appointment for Thursday evening to make an offer. Sue hugged me, thanked me for my help, and offered to buy me dinner on Thursday night to celebrate. "Of course," I said. We agreed to meet on Thursday after work to sign documents at the lawyer's office before heading to the realtor. Everything was going perfectly. I spoke with Karen on the phone Wednesday and canceled Thursday night's dinner. I told her I had an appointment, but suggested she have dinner on Friday night. "Does dinner look like last week?" she asked. "If you want, or if you're not hungry, we can go straight to dessert," I replied. "Let's figure it out as we go," she said. The realtor accepted our offer, and Sue and I were celebrating with dinner and drinks Thursday night, when Karin came over to our table. "That's how you understand a business meeting," she said rather loudly. "And you're probably going to take her over for dessert too," Karen said, steam coming out of her ears. "When Randy said she saw you with another woman at a restaurant, I called her a liar. I told her we were planning on getting back together, and you would never do that to me. Looks like I was wrong." "Karin, this is Sue," I only managed to say before she hit me in the face. "Don't ever call me again," she spat before running out of the restaurant. I just stood there in shock. "Sue, I'll be back in a minute," I said as I ran out of the restaurant, but Karin was nowhere to be found. "Damn, where did she go?" I called her mobile, but she didn't answer. I walked back to our table, and everyone was looking at me as I sat back down. "I didn't have time to catch up with her," I told Sue. "Call her and explain everything over the phone. I'll tell you everything," she said in a worried voice. "She's not answering her cell phone," I said. "Who is Randy?" asked Sue. "My youngest daughter, who is still angry at me for ruining her happy family. I didn't see her when we came in, but I didn't look for her. Tomorrow, when Karin has cooled down, I'll show her the documents and explain everything," I said. "Let's not let this ruin our celebration. We are homeowners now," I said, raising my glass. Over the next 2 days, I tried every way to contact Karin. I even went to her house, but she was either not at home or she did not open the door. Finally, I sent her one last email, my 10th. I tried to explain what happened, but you won't answer my calls or emails. Sue and I bought condos, and we were just celebrating, that's all. If you don't want to believe me or think I'm lying, then we're not as far as I thought. The ball is in your court, but only for a little while. I'm not going through all this crap again." I clicked send. A week later, Sue and I were having dinner when I saw Karin walk in with a man on a date. "It looks like I got my answer, and I'm sorry," I said, watching as they sat down at a table almost opposite ours. "Let's get out of here," I said, waving to the waiter for the bill. "You pay the bill, and I'll be right back," Sue said. 4 minutes later, she returned and took my hand. She smiled at Karin and gave her a small wave as we left. "What the hell was that?" I asked. "Just go to your place and you'll find out," Sue said as we headed to the car. "I can't believe she didn't believe me after everything we went through," I told Sue. "Steve, sometimes people need a little nudge to get them back on track," Sue said as we pulled up to my house. "Come on, we need to get ready for your guest," she said, running out onto the path. "Sue, what are you talking about? Which guest?" I asked when we entered the apartment. At this point, Sue began to undress. Her jacket, dress, shoes, everything flew to the floor. "Sue, I don't think I'm ready for this, and I'm definitely not in the mood right now," I said as I watched her strip completely naked. Damn, she had a great body, and on any other night I probably would have agreed, but I was still angry about what happened at the restaurant. About 3 minutes later, the doorbell rang. "Let them ring," said Sue, standing at the door. When someone started knocking on the door, Sue said she could handle it. She walked up to the door, completely naked, and opened it a foot, just enough for the person outside to see her completely naked. "Yes," she said, opening the door. "Where's Steve?" Karin asked angrily. "He's a little busy right now, as you can see." "Why don't you send him a letter? I'll tell him when we're done." "Of course, it probably won't be until tomorrow. So, Karin, get back to your date so I can get back to his own. You know how much he doesn't like being interrupted," Sue said with a smile. "No way. You have to go through me if you want to see him," Karin said, bursting into my apartment and heading to the bedroom, where I stood in amazement. "I told her at the restaurant that if she doesn't want you anymore, I'll take you away, that we'll go to your place and I'll sleep with you so you can forget about the stupid bitch who doesn't believe you," Sue said with a smile. When Karin returned from the bedroom, "Where is he?" Karin shouted before noticing me standing fully clothed. "With that, I think it's time for me to leave," Sue said, putting on her clothes. "Karin, remember what I told you," she said, coming up to me, kissing me on the cheek and telling me that she would see me later. "What the hell was that?" I asked. "I was just trying to make you jealous. I thought you were cheating on me, and I wanted to show that two people can play this game," Karen said, now feeling stupid. You said that we'll be exclusive after that night. You always said you couldn't afford anything until the house sold, and suddenly you're buying a condo. It didn't fit in my head. I thought you were lying because I caught you doing something. Karen, how can we hope to succeed if you don't trust me? I asked. I trust you, but I don't think I trust you completely. I just didn't want to lose you again, and I kind of lost my temper, she said. I didn't know whether to be angry at Karen for trying to make me jealous, or to admire that she was willing to fight for me. Looks like we need a little more time to sort things out before we try again, I said. Steve, I love you more than anything in my life. I had a problem that I didn't solve, because of which I lost you one day. I may not be perfect yet, but I'm working on it for both of us. If you want us to wait, I will wait. I won't be happy, but I will respect your wishes and step back, but only for a short time, she said. We talked all night and didn't even make love on Saturday, but she talked me into it on Sunday morning. I'd like to say we had a fairy tale romance after that, but it wasn't that simple. We stayed together, and she even moved into the penthouse with me, but we had more than one fight. I never knew what kind of Karen I would see when I came home in the evening. We finally went to a fifth doctor together and were finally able to find the right medications for her. If this had not happened, we would never have been able to be together. Now the three of us are sitting on my terrace, sipping wine and watching the sunset. Karen looks at Sue. Would you actually sleep with Steve that night to spite me? She asks. No, to annoy you, of course not. I would do it for the pleasure of spending the night with a wonderful man and showing him that there are more fish in the sea, and I would be glad to try my luck with him, she said, now looking at me. Now that he knows what I look like, I don't think it would take much effort, she said, sipping her wine. Ladies, do I have any say in this? I asked. Steve, when two hot women want you, it would be a win-win situation, no matter who you choose, Karen said. I'm just glad I won. You win for now, Sue said, sipping her wine and feeling herself getting aroused. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one.